Like my family, my girlfriend hates this. Unless it's in my calendar, I will forget that it's going to happen. I'm just one of those people. So I put it in my calendar for 10:30. Beautiful. What I forgot to do was take half an hour off. Because normally we start these streams half an hour before. So I forgot to take half an hour off of 10:30. Was having a wonderful time. Just had a bagel. Just sort of completely oblivious to the fact that I should be live. But we're here now. Goodness gracious me. It is real. We're finally going to get qualifying. We are finally going to get some actual... Well, we've had a little bit of qualifying action throughout the weekend so far. We had sprint qualifying already, but now full qualifying. But yes, I'm late. I appreciate that. But we'll get into it. We'll be fully underway in a moment. On another note, I'm officially addicted to the Pokemon Pocket game. It is very addicting. I warned you. I warned you. It's a very, very addicting game. But let's make sure that this is live. Let's make sure that I have the multi-viewer settings up. I've got nothing prepared. I got to my computer like, oh, lovely. Got a little 20 minutes to get everything set up. No, absolutely not. I think a Belgium 2021 is incoming. I really hope not. I really do hope not. Obviously, it's an opportunity, but they've shifted everything earlier. So the race has also shifted earlier on in the day, by the way. If any of you guys haven't adjusted your calendars, the race itself has also been brought forward a little bit. Oh, we can get rid of the qualifying postponed text from there. But they've also moved the race forwards by an hour and a half because they are expecting rain again today. It is raining a little bit as we speak. But hopefully the rain won't be too bad. Then by the time we get into qualifying and into the race, that we can still maybe run on the intermediate tyres. Full wet tyres are never really a thing. Like Lewis Hamilton even made the joke yesterday, like, we need better wet weather tyres. And that's been the thing for so long, hasn't it? They tested so many different options. We had spray guards being put onto the wheels. We had a different type of spray guard tested recently as well, neither of which seem to really do very much because the problem with these cars is they run so low to the ground, and because of the diffuser at the back of them, they do just chuck water up into the air. So it makes sense that we just can't run in the wet with the cars how they are at the moment. Maybe that'll change in 2026. Maybe they've got an idea in place. But it is Formula One, and it feels like they never really plan these things too far in advance. So I can't imagine that there is much of a plan in place, to be honest, when it comes to sorting out the wet weather tyres. They never use the wet tyres. Exactly. There's no point in them. And Lewis Hamilton even said that yesterday as well. He was like, what is the actual point of the wet weather tyres? And it is raining, but nowhere near like the level of raining it was yesterday. Like, it was absolutely pouring it down. If you were here for the postponed stream yesterday, where sort of 200-300 of us just watched rain fall for sort of, 3 hours was it in the end? It's nowhere near the level of rain that it was yesterday, but it is light rain. Light rain. Yeah, a bar. It's spot on. Take two, indeed. Second opportunity for us to get some qualifying underway. Be interested to see if this qualifying can't get done. As I said, it is raining. They might still pull away from this qualifying session taking place. What they decide in terms of the starting grid. There's been a little bit of discussion around maybe putting it back to the sprint standings or the sprint qualifying standings, because that's what we used to do. Like when the sprints were first introduced, we did have qualifying, then the sprint, and then the race. And we had the sprint lead on into the race. So wherever you finished in the sprint, you would then also have that starting position coming into the Grand Prix. So it's not unheard of that has happened. But obviously we changed the format, so that isn't the case anymore. Like Formula One literally like, yeah, that doesn't really work. We don't want a race determining qualifying position for the Grand Prix, and therefore they swapped it around. Maybe we have to go back a little bit. We're gonna have mixed conditions anyway, aren't we? We're gonna have intermediate tires at absolute best. We're gonna have full wet tires at absolute worst. Although, will we see full wet tires? Not so sure. I think they're just playing some replays of some old wet weather running here in Brazil. So we've seen it before. Brazil has had some wet races back in the day. Some very entertaining wet races back in the day, it has to be said as well. Like, was it 2012, 2013 where Nico Hülkenberg was like on for a podium finish? And it was like his best opportunity at a podium because it was like wet weather. He was in the Force India. I can't remember when it was, but I remember watching that Grand Prix and watching it back again recently because it was a super, super entertaining race in Brazil. Also, Lewis Hamilton's first World Championship win. Remember, Timo Glock went off because of the wet weather conditions. Like, there was just torrential rain then. So it is not unheard of for it to be quite wet and windy when it comes to the Brazilian Grand Prix. Is Lewis going to drive Senna's car today? Ooh, I don't know about that either. I really like... Again, I was going to get set up. I was going to read through little bits of news and then realize that I was already late. So, I don't know. Can't see it, though. Ah, there you go. Not sure. Les Lewis is going to ride his car. There you go. I'll take that. I'll take that as confirmation. I need to get a couple of bits loaded up in the background, to be fair. There we go. The rain is easing, to be fair. The rain is slowly subsiding. Qualifying due to get underway in about 10 minutes' time. It's not looking ridiculously wet, and the teams are actually sort of preparing the cars in a way that we didn't really see yesterday. I feel like most teams had basically decided that yesterday was a no-go. Whereas this time around, the teams do seem more prepared to actually get out on track. So, I have to record a video. Ooh, what's the video about? Everyone needs to make indoor tracks. I mean, it's an option. Maybe we could just have sort of wet weather tires that work. But the problem is also the spray and visibility, isn't it? So, needs to be safe for the drivers. What's the first ever race I watched? Ooh, I don't actually know, to be honest with you. I think we're going back to sort of 2008, 2009, around about that time. I know that 2009 was the first season I watched every single race. So it would have probably been a race somewhere in and amongst 2008. But then, like, maybe I saw a race before that, you know, just in and around life. I saw a race sort of pop up here, there, and everywhere. So I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. But I'd say it's around about that. Around about 2008, 2009, around about when I started watching with a little bit more intrigue into what Formula One actually was and how it works. Beautiful. Okay, we've got bits and pieces lined up in the background. We went through all of our predictions yesterday. I mean, you can get some more predictions in the chat if you'd like to, because the predictions might now change. Are you going to change your answers now that we know it is going to be full wet weather running in qualifying? Are we going to see maybe one of the more experienced drivers, Fernando Alonso, for instance, absolutely dead and buried in that Aston Martin over the sprint qualifying and sprint race. Like, they were horrendously slow over the sprint race, weren't they, Aston Martin? Even starting from the pit lane, it was still pretty dismal. Now, Fernando Alonso, wet weather, that experience, over 400 Grand Prix starts for the Spaniard. He's been there, done it all. And maybe we'll just have a little bit more guile and a little bit more knowledge. And then you have the other end of things. We've got so many drivers that have only just come onto the Formula One grid. We've got Colapinto and Lawson, who have literally joined midway through the season, if not over halfway through the season, with minimal experience, if any experience, in these kind of weather conditions inside of a Formula One car. They could be under a little bit of pressure as well. Hello, everyone. Why is this short live? So you can watch the streams either in short format, or if you hit the link to my channel, you can join us in the main chat as well in the full horizontal format. You can choose. It's an option now. We're trying to add options. No, it's just I just felt like it was a good plan to diversify a little bit. My birthday today. Can I get a shout out? Of course you can, Liverpool Red. Mainly because Liverpool are top of the league. Gonna win the league. I've said it. I've said it. It's happening. McLaren are winning the Constructors' Championship. Liverpool are winning the Premier League. All of my Christmases are coming at once. Who do I have in my F1 fantasy this weekend? Oh, Ali. Oh, I wish I was way better at F1 fantasy. I always forget. And I feel like once you forget one weekend, like I was really good at doing it throughout the first 4 or 5 Grand Prix weekends. And then I just kind of forgot to do it. I'm thinking of building in a F1 fantasy section into the pre-race podcasty bit that we do. So maybe we build that in, right? We build in like a pre-race discussion around the news of the week, like we did this week, right? We discussed obviously the RB seats and Liam Lawson versus Sergio Perez versus Colapinto. We talked about Bortoletto going to Sauber. We talked about the penalties and changes coming into this weekend for Red Bull and various bits and pieces that are changed on the McLaren car as well with their rear wing. Like, we discussed all of that. Well worth watching as well, even if you haven't seen it. You can always go back and watch those after the fact, because they are fairly sort of news related rather than specifics to the Grand Prix themselves in the weekend. So you can always go to the pre-race for those. Thinking next year, build in a fantasy. We do have a fantasy league for all of us together. There's a few people that are dedicated to it. But I think I missed around. I want to say around like Monaco or around about then. I like missed around where I got it all wrong. And then my team was just absolutely ruined. Like, it was no saving it. It's one of those things that you have to do every single time there is a Grand Prix. Otherwise, it just falls apart. This weekend, I have McLaren, Ferrari. Ooh, nice choice. I mean, yeah. Norris, Piastri, Joe, Colapinto, and Bottas. With my autopilot activated. Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Yuki is spin out because he's bad. Not because he's bad, but he does tend to struggle in the wet weather conditions. Thinking back to kind of Monaco last year, where he was running really, really well and then spun out. Was that last year or this year when it started raining in Monaco? I think it was last year, wasn't it? Because we had the Fernando Alonso could have won the Grand Prix had they pitted slightly differently. Here we are then. We're in Brazil. We are getting underway. The rain is still coming down. It's a little bit rainy, but it has subsided quite a lot, and we have got cars in the pit lane. So let's get ourselves prepared. Get a couple of bits loaded up in the background before we just get underway. Here we go. Could be an increase in rain in about 15 minutes or so, Pierre Gasly is told over the radio. I really hope not. I really, really hope not. Ooh. Radio transcriptions are not working. Interesting. Sort that out in a moment. How intense is the rain? Pretty mellow. Pretty mellow, but Pierre Gasly being told over the radio there it might get worse as it progresses. So that could be interesting. Okay. Cars are out in the pit lane though. I think everybody wants to get their lap in as quickly as possible because as it gets wetter, the track is obviously going to get slipperier and slipperier, and the track times disappear from underneath you. Everyone wants to get out first of everyone. I think the Williams cars at the front of the queue at the moment. A good sort of 10, 12 cars, I want to say, in the pit lane, ready and raring to go. Gonna try and see if I can get their radio messages working. Seems like they're not gonna work today. Maybe I'll get the sector leaderboard up instead. Here we go. Let's put this there instead for a moment while I just sort out the other bits behind the scenes. See, this is why me running late is never a good thing. Oh, we are underway. Cars out on track. Green light at the end of the pit lane. And we are going to get some running in Brazil. All 20 drivers are going to be out on track as quickly as they possibly can, it feels, to make sure that they are getting a lap time in. Alex Albon is going to lead the pack out. Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Liam Lawson in that order. The 5 drivers that have made their way past the end of the pit lane. Tsunoda behind his teammate. Joe and Bottas also coming out for the Stake Sauber team behind them. The Ferraris joining in, the Aston Martins getting in the queue. Everybody is trying to get out on track as quickly as possible. Full wet tyres, the call of today. So it will take a little while for those full wet tyres to get up to speed because they are not allowed to use tyre blankets, by the way, anymore for full wet tyres. So we're going to see quite a lot of drivers maybe even doing 2 warm-up laps here. It's quite a long Q1 session, 18 minutes. They have the time to do it. And the spray coming off the back of some of these cars already displacing the water. I think that is the one benefit, right? You get the cars out on track. They are going to start chucking that water off of the racing line at least. You can see that the amount of water displaced by these cars is just absolutely ridiculous. Here comes Alex Albon, though, across the start-finish line. And we're going to see Alex Albon on a flying lap here in Brazil. Lando Norris, the winner of the sprint race behind him, just coming around the final corner to start his first flying lap as well. Keep an eye on Alex Albon and Lando Norris's times as they come around. But we've also got Max Verstappen, Colapinto, Perez and Behrman lining up at the end of the pit lane. It's a lot of traffic. Oh, and it's Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson has made an error. And I think Liam Lawson might have stopped out on track. Looking at the timing sheets, he is not moving currently. He's at turn 12 at the moment. Liam Lawson is just about getting going again. Oh, we're looking at Alex Albon coming around turn 9, though, because otherwise yellow flags are going to be waved where Liam Lawson is, and Albon and Norris's times are going to kind of be for nothing because they're going to have to slow down during that sector. But Liam Lawson is back underway. Thank goodness for that. We're going to see some actual lap times. Alex Albon coming around turn 11 and Liam Lawson just about getting out of the way with those yellow flags. A little spin from Liam Lawson, but nothing to worry about. He has continued on. He's now right in front of Carlos Sainz, though. I feel like Carlos Sainz is going to get that overtake done on Liam Lawson. Lawson on a flying lap now. Lando Norris, the quickest of anybody through the middle sector so far. He's just coming around towards the timing screens. Alex Albon, a 132.4. Lando Norris is the man behind him with a 131.6. Here we are then. Liam Lawson, the replay. What happened here to the RB youngster? Oh, just got a little bad shape. Aquaplaned a touch. And yeah, just stayed on the paint a little bit too long, did Liam Lawson. So Liam Lawson went off, but he's back on again. Managed to get that car going once more. Oh, there's another yellow flag. I think it's Zhou Guanyu this time. Zhou Guanyu's made a mistake at the exact same corner, so it seems very slippery down at turn 12 at the moment. Zhou Guanyu's basically ruined Valtteri Bottas's lap time there. There's Bottas now coming into the pits without setting a lap time. Zhou Guanyu continuing on for the Stake Sauber team. Charles Leclerc just coming across the start-finish line at 132.9 from Charles Leclerc. Yellow flags in Sector 3 again. Who is it this time? I think it's Lance Stroll this time who's gone off. Alex Albon, Lewis Hamilton might have been affected by that Lance Stroll spin. Let's have a look at Zhou Guanyu's. Yeah, just getting very out of shape. Down at turn 12 just seems very slippery. And getting all out of shape. Aquaplaning down at turn 12. Same for Lance Stroll. Although Lance Stroll makes his way onto the grass. So Lance Stroll also caught out. So that's now Liam Lawson, Zhou Guanyu, and Lance Stroll have all made mistakes down in turn 12. Very slippery out there at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda was purple through the first sector there for a moment. Until Lance Stroll went through the first sector. Is currently the fastest man there. Sergio Perez has just jumped to third on the timing sheets. Esteban Ocon is currently fastest of anybody. Fernando Alonso behind him by a couple of attempts. Lando Norris has dropped all the way down to 7th and is over a second off the pace now. 2.5 off the pace of Esteban Ocon. So the lap times are going to start tumbling. And it makes sense that a lot of these drivers want to stay out and want to have another go. Try and get a clean lap. But there's also a lot of traffic. A lot of drivers out on track at the moment, trying to clear the water off the racing line, but get their lap times in at the same time. Still 12 minutes to go in the session, so more than enough time for the drivers to come back in, swap tyres if necessary. You'd hope that these wet weather tyres would be a little bit more durable. Colapinto now coming out. Drivers just debating making that switch onto intermediate tyres is now the next discussion point. Valtteri Bottas does indeed come out of the pits on intermediate tyres, so he is going to be the first man out there. Keep an eye on Valtteri Bottas's lap times here, because if he is tremendously quick, we are going to see a big, big rush into the pits to swap onto the intermediate tyre. Colapinto comes across the line at 131.2. Esteban Ocon into the 129s. Valtteri Bottas has gone off at turn 5. Back on track once again is the Finn. So Bottas not maybe looking 100% comfortable on those intermediate tyres as of yet. Might have gone that a little bit too early. Has the experience, though, to back himself. Lance Stroll's getting off again. Oh my goodness me, and a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz and George Russell getting incredibly close to one another. Very, very close to touching the Ferrari and the Mercedes there. So much for Inters. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas looking a little bit uncomfortable, but maybe just trying to get those up to speed as well. and up to temperature, sorry. But Valtteri Bottas now coming around the final couple of bends. So we'll see what his lap times are like on a fast lap. Nico Hulkenberg comes across the line to go 10th fastest. Currently, it's Russell, Leclerc, Behrman, Bottas, and Hamilton. 5 drivers that need to improve. So still a lot of time to play out and still a lot of drivers you wouldn't expect to go out in Q1 down in that bottom 5. Sergio Perez has gone quickest of anybody through the first sector and is looking to improve from 4th place on the grid at the moment. Looks like he will go 2nd fastest of anybody does Sergio Perez. And Yuki Tsunoda now coming around. And Tsunoda up to the top of the timing sheets with a 129.1. Charles Leclerc pour through the first sector in his Ferrari. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do much in terms of getting up towards the top end, but needs to get himself at least out of the bottom 5, does the Monegasque. Same can be said for George Russell. Alex Albon, the man under pressure in 15th. Lewis Hamilton also coming around for a flying lap. The yellow flag in sector 1. It's Colapinto. And Colapinto, I think, has gone for a little spin and a red flag. A red flag. I think Colapinto might have gone into the barriers. He has indeed, and that is a Williams car that is looking worse for wear. He is in the barriers down at turn 3. And it looks okay. The driver is okay. But red flag partway through Q1. 8 minutes and 50 seconds will remain on the clock. So an opportunity for the drivers to get back out on track again. The problem is the rain might come down. We're told by Pierre Gasly and the Alpine team that they were expecting rain in about 15 minutes from the start of the qualifying session. And Franco Colapinto not able to get that car going again. It doesn't look like a huge smash into the barriers. Can't see any particular sort of damage to the Williams car itself. Looks like he might have just slowly aquaplaned into the barriers. Let's have a little look at the replay. So comes around turn 1, a little bit out of shape through there. But turn 2, you can see he's wrestling with the car. As he comes around turn 3, just loses the rear end of the car, goes for a spin. Oh, and it is a bigger shunt than I thought. It's a bigger shunt than it looks, but he kind of slaps into the wall side on. So it's not like he buries his front wing into the barriers or anything. He kind of just hits into the tires slightly with the rear right tire first. It's sort of the side of the car. The Williams mechanics devastated for Franco, obviously, here in Brazil. So many fans here to see Franco Colapinto from Argentina. Made the trip up to see the Williams driver, but that is going to be the end of his qualifying session. He was currently running 9th in the standings. So even if he does make it through to Q2, he'll start 15th at best. I can't imagine Colapinto making it through with that lap time for this qualifying session. So that is the end of Colapinto's afternoon. The drivers have all made their way back into the pits. We're going to get 8 minutes and 50 seconds of drivers having a go once again here in qualifying. Track might become slower. This is the thing. This is the problem that those drivers towards the back end of the grid, especially the 2 Mercedes drivers. Luckily, if you're a Ferrari fan, Charles Leclerc just about finished his lap, literally as the red flag dropped, basically, but jumped up to 2nd quickest in the standings. Still 6/10 off Yuki Tsunoda's time, but safe nonetheless. Ollie Behrman will also be thanking his lucky stars. He's in 15th place at the moment, but as it stands, if we don't get the cars out on track anymore, if the rain does fall, we're going to see Alex Albon, Zhou Guanyu, George Russell, Valtteri Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton. Both of the Mercedes cars would drop out of qualifying at this point. And that is a real shocker because the Mercedes cars have been pretty good in wet conditions this season. I'm thinking back to Canada, where we saw George Russell on pole, matching Max Verstappen's pole position time. Thinking back to Lewis Hamilton in Silverstone, who went on to win that Grand Prix in the mixed conditions. You know, we've seen that the Mercedes car is pretty good in the wet weather running. At least it was earlier on in the season. Possibly those changes that they've made have gotten rid of a little bit of that performance in these trickier conditions. The rain is falling still, though. Track is getting wetter and wetter. They're just putting the barrier back together. Was it, as I say, a huge shunt with the barriers from Colapinto, but he did displace a few of the advertising hoardings, and a few of the tyres need to just be shuffled back into position. We're seeing the Williams car being taken away, though, on a crane, and the crane just reversing itself off of the track. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Massively appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 110,000 subscribers before the end of the season. And if you're enjoying this, hit the like button. Completely and utterly free for you. Takes 30 seconds, if not that, 3 seconds to hit the like button. And it massively, massively helps out the channel and helps out the streams. If you could hit that, that would be awesome. We are going to go again, though, restarting in 2 minutes and 30 seconds time. And already actually seeing drivers out in the pit lane, prepared to go out onto the racetrack as quickly as possible. It's sort of that mad dash to get onto the racetrack again. And I think it's because you know that there is a possibility of another yellow flag, another red flag. We've seen a good few now. We've had Lawson, Joe, Stroll, all make mistakes down at turn 12. Colapinto at turn 3. We saw Bottas go off at turn 5. There is an opportunity here that we could have another red flag. And those 5 drivers at the bottom want at least one opportunity to improve. There is Lewis Hamilton, who is currently the 20th fastest driver in this session. 11 seconds off the pace. So not really the lap time you're expecting from Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris. And Lando Norris saying that there's a lot more rain. He's out there in the cockpit of his McLaren car. He's actually second in the list of drivers in the pit lane already. But it looks like Lando Norris is waiting and watching and not really sure that the McLaren team are going to be able to put in a faster lap time because the rain is getting heavier. But then the McLaren team also saying that the rain should subside a little bit as the next couple of minutes tick by. So we'll have to wait and see what the lap times say. It's looking very, very competitive. And it looks like it could go either way. We've got 2 Mercedes cars down in the bottom 5 at the moment. One guy said earlier that the Mercedes will be the disappointment. I mean, at the moment, absolutely spot on. They've not been able to get either of their cars through Q1. Don't know if has that ever happened before to the Mercedes team as we know them. Feels unheard of that both of the Mercedes cars would drop out in the first round of qualifying. Ollie Behrman peeling off to one side. I think coming back in. Yeah, they've gone on the intermediate tyres. Ollie Behrman and the Haas team decided to try and gamble on the intermediates. Ollie Behrman actually getting wheeled back to the garage because realising that the intermediate tyres are not the choice at the moment. Colapinto, unfortunately, went off at turn 3. Bit of a spin, lost the rear end of the car, did a sort of 360 pirouette into the barriers. And that is done and dusted for Colapinto this afternoon. He might qualify 15th, you know, if he still manages to get through. We are back underway with cars out on track. Gasly was actually the first driver out in the list. Then Norris, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Ocon, Joe and Bottas side by side in the Stake Sauber cars coming towards the end of the pit lane. Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, everybody's trying to get out on track as quickly as they possibly can. The two Mercedes cars are the ones that really need to get out there. Brazil is always a surprise. Very true. Very, very true. It does make you wonder if this Mercedes car just has lost a little bit of the wet weather running qualifying pace that it had earlier on in the season. Lando Norris, we're currently on board with 10th fastest at the moment. He dropped that championship lead to Max Verstappen down to 44 points after the sprint race yesterday. Verstappen not doing himself any favours, picking up that 5-second penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. 44 points the gap now with 4 races to run. George Russell doing some overtaking in the pit lane. And George Russell complaining about the RB, I think, of either Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson ahead. Can't see which one at the moment, but George Russell trying to do some overtaking as they go through the pit exit. Here we are then. Pierre Gasly has started his flying lap, so keep an eye on Gasly and Norris's times and how they really compare to how they were beforehand, because if we're not seeing improvements, it could be a little bit tricky. Oscar Piastri just coming around to start his flying lap as well. I'm having a look at where Pierre Gasly is in all this. Gasly just coming around turn 10 at the moment on his first flying lap. He was at the front of the queue, remember. 14th fastest at the... 12th fastest at the moment, Pierre Gasly. 23.0 as he came around the first sector. A 48.1 in the middle sector. So, doing okay. Gasly coming around the final corner. Let's see what his lap time is like in comparison to beforehand. And Gasly comes across the line. Does improve. So there is possibility to get that lap time better. It was only sort of much quicker in the middle sector. Green middle sector for Pierre Gasly. Everything else a little bit off. Lando Norris comes across the start-finish line. It's only 11th fastest for Lando Norris, a 131.2. Piastri and Hamilton have just finished the first sector. Piastri comes across the second sector. It's only 4/10 off Yuki Tsunoda's time. So Piastri definitely finding lap time in his McLaren at the moment. You can see it wobbling around. The spray coming off the back of the papaya car. Piastri coming around the final corner across the start-finish line. Jumps up to 5th fastest. Does Oscar Piastri. So there is lap time to be found. There is improvements that drivers are making. Thank you, Emmett, for subscribing to the channel. Everybody on the full wet tyre once again. Hamilton now coming around the final corner. 20th fastest at the moment. But no real lap time from Lewis Hamilton up until now. Alex Albon improves but doesn't go quicker to get himself out of the bottom 5. Hamilton only goes up to 14th fastest. It's not absolutely guaranteed. Albon's going to come across the line and improve. Can he get himself out of that bottom 5? Yes, up to 7th goes Alex Albon. Much better for the Williams car, but that puts Lewis Hamilton now in the position where, again, he could drop out of qualifying in Q1. Oh, and here's George Russell, a replay of him. Oh, he goes wide at turn 1. So George Russell really having a tough time in that Mercedes car, and then I think gets in the way of a Williams. Oh, and that could be a penalty for George Russell there. He got right in the way of Alex Albon. Don't know if Alex Albon was on his flying lap or not there when that replay was shown. George Russell now coming around for the Mercedes team. He is 20th fastest at the moment. The problem that he's got is if he does get through, he drops Lewis Hamilton into the bottom 5. So one of the Mercedes cars looking like they're going to be out in this first qualifying session. whichever way round it's going to be. Bottas, Lawson, Behrman, and Joe, the other 4 drivers in the mix at the moment. Nico Hülkenberg is only 14th fastest. Lando Norris, the championship contender, is 13th fastest. None of those drivers safe at this point. Franco Colapinto, despite not having come out after that incident, still 12th fastest of everybody out on track. Lando Norris is just coming around on another lap to build up to, I think, his final flying lap. Nico Hülkenberg taking a move past. Here comes George Russell then. Keep an eye on George Russell's lap time. He's right under the rear wing of the other Mercedes car. Oh no, it's an Aston Martin, sorry. And there's a yellow flag in Sector 3. I think it was Nico Hülkenberg that's gone off, but now back on track again. So green flags are waved. Max Verstappen is not improving in Sector 1 or Sector 2, by the way. Verstappen only 11th fastest at the moment. That puts Lewis Hamilton back into the bottom 5. Verstappen with a much better final sector. Why on earth were Verstappen's times yellow if he was actually improving? Not sure. Verstappen goes 5th fastest and did improve on his lap time, despite what the online timings were saying. Nico Hülkenberg then, here's the incident. Just gets onto the paint a little bit there, maybe. No, just aquaplane straight off into the grass. Very similar to the incident that we saw from Lance Stroll. And just a little mistake from Nico Hülkenberg. Let's have a look then. The bottom 5 now. Liam Lawson, Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, Behrman, and Joe. Hamilton now coming around the final sector. See him coming around turn 12 on your screens at the moment. Hamilton needs to improve. Max Verstappen's lap time was deleted for going around turn 12. So Verstappen back down to 12th fastest. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. It's not enough. It's not enough for Lewis Hamilton. He's got one more shot at it if he can go for a flying lap here straight away. He's got a minute left on the clock. It's like make or break for Lewis Hamilton at this point. He's going for it one last time. Lawson, Hamilton, Bottas, Behrman, and Joe are bottom 5 at the moment. Norris is also under pressure, isn't he? Only 14th fastest at the moment. Goodness me. Hamilton 16th fastest at this moment in time. He improves through the first sector, though, does Lewis Hamilton. He's so on the edge is Lewis Hamilton. You can see every single corner. He's adjusting. He's fighting. The car just isn't wanting to go around the corners with any kind of pace at the moment. And Lewis Hamilton fighting it every single corner at this point in time. Also, Lando Norris, the same, not having a fun time inside of that McLaren car at all. Just coming down towards turn 4 is Lando Norris. Keep an eye on his lap times as well. It's all... Oh, it's not looking good for Lando Norris. It's a yellow first sector from Lando Norris, who is now 15th fastest, by the way. Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Lawson, Behrman, and Joe all behind him. Lewis Hamilton now coming around the final corner. Can he get himself out of that bottom 5? Yes! Hamilton up to 14th. That puts Lando Norris down into the bottom 5. And Colapinto still through in 15th place at the moment for Williams. Lando Norris now coming around. He's got Gasly and Hülkenberg in front of him. Hamilton on the radio, very upset with the car, not happy with the balance at all. Alex Albon has just gone quickest of anybody, showing that there is still pace out there to find. Here comes Ollie Behrman to get himself through out of the bottom 5, unless Lando Norris can improve. Hülkenberg doesn't. Can Lando? Yes! Lando Norris puts himself 14th fastest and just gets himself through. Here comes Liam Lawson to drop Lewis Hamilton out of qualifying. It's Liam Lawson. Nabs 14th place. Lando Norris now down to 15th. I think Zhou Guanyu is on a lap. Let's see what Zhou Guanyu can do. Coming across the start-finish line. Doesn't improve from 20th. Max Verstappen, though, does indeed. Goes fastest of anybody. Hamilton is indeed out. Liam Lawson putting Hamilton into the bottom 5 once more. So it is Lewis Hamilton, Ollie Behrman, Franco Colapinto, Nico Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu are bottom 5 drivers for the Grand Prix later today. Goodness me. It was right on the edge. Lando Norris right there as well in 15th place, struggling on the wet tyre. But Lewis Hamilton couldn't get it done. And a tentative "we are through" from Will Joseph there. On a track where he knows the championship battle is underway. And Lewis Hamilton being told on the radio, he's not very happy at all, being told on the radio that he is not through once again. And that's got to hurt. George Russell all the way up in 3rd place. Lewis Hamilton down in 16th. Just no qualifying performance from Lewis Hamilton in recent race weekends. Goodness me. Ouch. Very, very harsh indeed. Ooh. Just quickly double check this. And what have I done? Oh, there you go. Max Verstappen absolutely flew in that final lap. That just goes to show there was lap time there to find. The drivers were improving. It was just a little bit of luck also needed. If you hit that bit of traffic, if you hit a car in front of you, the spray obviously means that you just can't see anything. And then on top of that, you have the car in front of you also causing you problems in the braking zones with the dirty air and everything that comes with being right underneath the rear wing of a car, especially in these qualifying sessions. I think it was just so busy out on track, all 20 drivers going for it, that got a little bit close for comfort in that one for a lot of the drivers out on track. Saw a good few yellow flags. That red flag from Colapinto meant that his session came to an end with 8 minutes and 50 seconds still to run. Colapinto did, in the end, drop down to 18th place. So he is out of this one. He was joined by Zhou Guanyu, the slowest driver out on track in that Stake Sauber car, Nico Hülkenberg, and Ollie Behrman, both of the Hasses, after looking incredibly quick in sprint qualifying, just can't seem to get it together in the wet weather conditions, unfortunately for them. Just not quite working out. And the car not looking at the best in these wet conditions here in Brazil, despite Kevin Magnussen obviously picking up his first ever pole position in Formula 1 in these kind of conditions a couple of years ago. Hülkenberg and Behrman both drop out, but the big name in the bottom 5, Lewis Hamilton, out of qualifying. Valtteri Bottas made it through in the Stake Sauber. Liam Lawson also jumped up into that 14th place, which was the turning point. And Lando Norris can be thanking himself and thanking other drivers for making little mistakes. He was very lucky indeed, I think, Lando Norris, to make it through. Carlos Sainz was 11th fastest. He had Lance Stroll 12th fastest. They're also going to be looking to improve if they want to make it into the top 10 shootout. They are just getting set up for Q2 here in Brazil. 3 or 4 minutes to play until we get underway with that. So I think Verstappen will outpace Lando in this qualifying session. I mean, it's looking very, very likely. If that is anything to go by, Lando Norris looking very unconfident in that McLaren car in these conditions, whereas Verstappen absolutely flew at the end of that first qualifying session. Do remember that Max Verstappen does have a 5-place grid penalty for taking a brand new ICE into this weekend after some problems with his power unit during the Mexican Grand Prix weekend. He's had to swap that around and take a new power unit. So a 5 place grid penalty for Verstappen. We are now getting set up for Q2. Drivers already in the pit lane. And Alex Albon being told over the radio, at the moment, it looks like the wet weather conditions are at their best. The rain has stopped, seemingly. There's no rain falling on the camera as we look at them now. So the drivers wanting to get out there as quickly as possible, and it's going to be Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc who are the drivers to run out in front. What is an ICE? An internal combustion engine. ICE. So the actual engine itself inside of the power unit. Carlos Sainz, first man out on track, and Alex Albon on the radio told that the lap times should be probably better towards the beginning of this session. Driver radio not working? No, unfortunately not. I'm not sure why it's not working at the moment. Might be something to do with the connection and the fact that this session obviously got moved from when it should have been yesterday to this morning. Possibly had a reshuffle and bits and pieces, but yeah, for some reason not working. I'll have a little look at it between the sessions. Hopefully it will be back for the Grand Prix this afternoon. Oscar Piastri just getting the hand to hold inside of the pit lane and finally released out onto the track. It's going to be Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell, Liam Lawson, Stroll, Bottas, Alonso, Albon, Perez, Ocon. In that order, Lando Norris just coming towards the end of the pit lane as well. Gasly, Verstappen and Piastri making their way around turn 2, turn 3, but obviously still inside of the pit lane. You come out just at the end of turn 3 here in Brazil when you come out of the pits. Carlos Sainz is starting his first flying lap then. Ferrari on full wet tyres. Oh, Oscar Piastri on the intermediate tyre. Goodness gracious. Refresh that. I don't know what's happened to loads of things aren't working today. I think it's just qualifying being moved has decided that everything is gonna fall apart a little bit here. Verstappen is getting pole. I mean, he'd start from 6th place still. We'll wait and see though. Here we go. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz working their way around in the Ferraris. Carlos Sainz, a 127, 128, 129, 129.4 for Carlos Sainz as he comes around the first sector. Alex Albon is also running around towards the back of the pack, just seeing him come around. But let's see Charles Leclerc come across the start-finish line. Leclerc goes quicker than his teammate. 129.3 for Charles Leclerc. Verstappen now coming across the start-finish line to start his first flying lap. Tsunoda also. See where George Russell and Tsunoda line up. Tsunoda, I think, with another warm-up lap, 7.5 seconds off the pace unless there was a problem there. George Russell comes across the line second fastest. Liam Lawson goes 4th fastest. He's 4 tenths off the pace. Lance Stroll goes to the top of the timing sheets in his Aston Martin car. Here comes Valtteri Bottas. Bottas goes to the top of the timing sheets again with a 129.0. Seems like the times are tumbling because Fernando Alonso now into the 128.7s. Oscar Piastri struggling in that car. The intermediate tyre on his car. Sergio Perez, a 128.1. Bottas and Stroll 1-2. What's happening? Oscar Piastri, a second down on the intermediate tyres through the middle sector. Lando Norris still not looking 100% at ease with that McLaren. He's 1.4 seconds off Sergio Perez's lap time. Max Verstappen has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector. Piastri comes across the line, third fastest overall of anybody on the intermediate tyre. Still 7/10 off the pace though. And Lando Norris wants to box for intermediate tyres as Verstappen goes for a 1:27.7. So Ocon and Tsunoda, the two drivers are left to come through. Tsunoda's lap time was deleted for track limits infringement, but Esteban Ocon now coming around. Tsunoda has pitted, I assume, for some intermediate tyres. So Esteban Ocon, the final driver to set a lap time to give us an idea of where everybody is. But Gasly, Lawson, and Albon, the three drivers that definitely need to improve. They are going to make it through into Q3. Oscar Piastri has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. Are the intermediate tyres now the correct choice of tyre? Bottas and Stroll coming into the pits. Lawson into the pits as well. Let's see if Lawson comes out on some intermediate tyres because he's just gone in and out of the pit lane. Yep, the swap to intermediate tyres is indeed happening. Lawson onto the intermediates. George Russell onto intermediate tyres as well. So the lap times are going to continue to fall. Oscar Piastri, quickest of anybody through the first sector, is now coming around the final corner. Let's see what Oscar Piastri's lap time is like. It's a 1:27.1. So half a second quicker than Max Verstappen in this one. Here we go. Yuki Tsunoda on board with him. Oh, yellow flag in sector 2. It's George Russell, it looks. George Russell's made a mistake down at turn 10, 11. Is getting back underway, though, but that's going to ruin Liam Lawson's lap there. I think Liam Lawson, though, on a warm-up lap rather than a flying lap. But George Russell, a little mistake. Just going through turn 10. Let's have a look at this. Gets through turn 10 fairly well. Oh, tries to get on the power. Just a little bit too early there, George Russell, and loses the rear end of that Mercedes car. So, George Russell drops back. Yuki Tsunoda just coming around in the V-Carb. And on the intermediate tyres, was running pretty well, Yuki Tsunoda. Esteban Ocon came into the pits to get some intermediate tyres rather than setting a lap time. Gasly, Lawson, and Albon, the other three drivers that still need to improve on their times to go through to Q3. Piastri, Verstappen, Perez are top three at the moment. Alonso fourth, Bottas fifth. Stroll, Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, and Norris are safe as it stands. But now getting into the intermediate tyre running. A Red Bull there getting out of the way of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda struggling though. 1.8 seconds off the pace through the middle sector is Tsunoda. The fastest first sector has just been set by Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll, a 21.7. And looking to improve upon that. Sorry, a 21.7 through the first sector and looking to improve on his overall lap time. Still looking very quick indeed. Yellow flag in the first sector is Carlos Sainz. I think Carlos Sainz has gone off at turn 2. And still a yellow flag. So George Russell's going to come across the start-finish line. But anybody who is starting a flying lap at the moment is seeing Carlos. Oh, and it's a big crash. It is a big shunt from Carlos Sainz into the barriers. And Carlos Sainz, that is going to be another red flag here. Carlos Sainz into the barriers at turn 2. And a big shunt to that rear right side of the Ferrari. The rear right tyre displaced. The rear wing completely taken off. And let's see if we can get a little replay of that Sainz crash. Red flag with 5 minutes and 51 seconds to go. Here it is from the Spaniard. Currently 10th fastest on the timing sheets. Comes around towards turn 1. Slightly wider through turn 1. Oh! Just a snap. As he tried to pick the power up through turn 2. You can see him trying to get the power down. Arguing with the wheel almost to get that car to actually go around turn 2. And as he steps onto the throttle, the rear end of the car spins around. And that is the end of Carlos Sainz's qualifying for today. That is going to be a big repair job for the Ferrari team, though much bigger a shunt than the Colapinto red flag that we had earlier on. Carlos Sainz now under a lot of pressure to perform in the race, because he's going to be starting from likely the bottom sort of 11, well, definitely 11 through 15 for you'd imagine, because Norris, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda, Ocon will all be back out on track in a moment once the car is removed. 5 minutes and 51 seconds still to play out in this one. Quickly. It's looking... Oscar Piastri was the first driver onto the intermediate tyres. Still fastest of anybody so far. Oh, and there was the mistake from Lando Norris. Also through turn 2. Managed to catch it. Very similar to what we saw from Carlos Sainz, to be fair. Big oversteer moment for Lando Norris through turn 2. Kept that McLaren car on track, though, unlike his old teammate Carlos. Carlos dropping out of this one. 10th fastest at the moment, but 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 51 seconds still to play in this. Ooh, it's looking like if we lose 5 minutes, it could start raining again. Goodness me. So, to catch people up, Q1, Lewis Hamilton, Ollie Behrman, Franco Colapinto, Nico Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu, the 5 drivers that we lost. Franco Colapinto with a shunt into the barriers with 8 minutes and 50 seconds to play in Q1. And the Argentine, in front of a lot of his fans, unfortunately dropped out of qualifying in his Williams car. Lando Norris just about squeaked through in Q1 and now under pressure again in Q2 with 5 minutes and 51 seconds on the clock. Carlos Sainz, a big shunt into turn 2. We're watching the Ferrari car being removed from the track. A lot of damage to the rear end of that Ferrari. The rear right tyre displaced, the rear wing completely taken off as well. And 5 minutes 51 seconds to play until we know our top 10 for the Grand Prix later today. Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Esteban Ocon, the 5 drivers that need to improve. They are desperate to improve on their lap times at the moment. Don't be surprised if he's unable to start the race. I don't think it's quite that bad. I think they should be able to put that car back together again before the Grand Prix itself. It's quite a big shunt. I feel like it's mainly damage to the rear wing, though, and they should have at least another rear wing, if not an exact replica of the rear wing that he was running. 2 minutes and 30 seconds until we get back underway here in qualifying. Jokes aside, Stroll is quite good in the red. Yes, Lance Stroll running 3rd fastest at the moment. 2 minutes, 20 seconds to run. Alex Albon already getting out into the pit lane and getting to the front of the queue in that Williams car, wanting to improve. Currently 13th. Needs to get up into the top 10. Carlos Sainz's car has been removed off the racetrack. Just seeing there the recovery vehicles moving the Ferrari off of the track. And Sergio Perez saying we should have stayed in the garage. Unfortunately, though, a little bit too late for that, Sergio. Red flag is coming to an end in 1 minute and 20 seconds time. Oof. Ooh, Oscar Piastri. There's light drops in the pit lane, and they feel like the rain could come in 4 minutes or so. 4 minutes until there may be rain in the pit lane. That would be a big, big drop for Lando Norris of anybody at this moment in time. Lando in 11th place. Come on, Lando, please. Just do it for me. Stroll's going to win. Well, you remember sort of Turkey, Lance Stroll's pole position in Formula One was very similar conditions to this. Very similar conditions indeed. Lance Stroll got himself into his first and only pole position in Formula One. He's doing pretty well so far here today. 3rd fastest. Stroll on pole. It's not impossible. Absolutely not impossible. Lando Norris now at the end of the pit lane. Getting us underway. Lando Norris is going to be the first man out on track in the McLaren car. Currently 11th fastest. Slower than Max Verstappen considerably at this moment in time. Remember, Max Verstappen does have a 5-place grid penalty, but all eyes on those two over the course of this weekend to see if going into the final 3 races of the season, Lando Norris is still within touching distance of a Drivers' Championship victory. Five minutes to run, and 5 minutes where Lando Norris needs a good, solid flying lap. Will the race be tomorrow? No, the race is still going to be later today. Lando Norris just coming around turn 10 at the moment. Tsunoda, Albon and Lawson all out on track as well. Liam Lawson actually 5th fastest at the moment. Splits the Red Bull cars. Tsunoda is the RB that needs to improve. Oscar Piastri still the fastest man out on track at the moment. First driver onto the intermediate tyres, and it really worked for him. A 125.1 from Piastri. He's out on track again, though. Alonso, Bottas, Russell, Stroll, Verstappen, Gasly, Ocon, Perez, and Leclerc all out on track. Lando Norris then starts his flying lap in the McLaren car. It's still tentative through turn 2, fighting with the car through turn 3 as well is Lando Norris, as he's looking to improve on 11th place. Carlos Sainz, of course, out of qualifying now. So Carlos Sainz in 10th place at the moment, but won't be able to improve on that lap time. A 129.4 is the minimum that Lando Norris needs to beat. He is a couple attempts up through the first sector as Lando Norris. Now the tricky bit. Through turn 8 goes Lando. Turn 9 as well. You can see him wrestling with the McLaren car. Trying to find the speed. Trying to find the grip in those intermediate tyres. Round turn 10 and 11, he goes. A little bit of a shake of the rear end of the car through turn 11. Lando Norris looking good. A couple of seconds up on Carlos Sainz at this moment in time. And is a much better lap from Lando Norris. The championship still alive if he can get this car around. Yuki Tsunoda also improving. Looks like the lap times are going to tumble in this final session. Lando Norris across the line goes third fastest. A 126.4 from Lando Norris. Still a second off of the pace of Oscar Piastri in this. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda. He goes fourth fastest with a 126.4. Just a couple of hundredths behind Lando Norris. Here comes Alex Albon. Slower still in a 126.8. Goes fifth fastest. Charles Leclerc with a poor first sector in the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc now down in the bottom 5. Carlos Sainz is going to be out of qualifying. Fernando Alonso goes quickest of anybody with a 125, dead in the Aston Martin. And now Valtteri Bottas coming across the line. The Kick Sauber car into the top 10. Valtteri Bottas, could he pick up his first points of the season later on today in the Grand Prix? At the moment, he's starting in the point scoring places. Lance Stroll improves to go fourth fastest. Esteban Ocon comes across the line, though, and goes third fastest overall. Tsunoda and Norris falling down the order. Verstappen now in 10th place. Alex Albon has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. It's Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's gone off. This could be another car into the barriers. Lance Stroll has come to a stop. Lando Norris goes fastest of anybody, a 124.8. Max Verstappen is in the bottom 5. Bottom 5. Call a red flag. Call a red flag. Lance Stroll in the barriers. Yellow flag being waved. Alex Albon comes across the start-finish line to go fourth fastest. Here comes Liam Lawson, goes fourth fastest himself. A 125.6 from Liam Lawson. That's put Perez and Verstappen down into the bottom 5, by the way. Lance Stroll is still stationary in sector 1. I think has gone off at turn 3. And a red flag! And a red flag! Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen are going to be out of qualifying. The red flag falls on the Red Bull duo. Oh my God. Max Verstappen is going to start tomorrow's Grand Prix in 17th place. Oh, good gracious, Lance Stroll, I could kiss you. Oh my God. Lance Stroll puts himself in the barriers down at turn 3. It looks almost identical to what Colapinto did, except a little bit more heavy on the rear wing. Let's have a little look at Lance Stroll coming through turn 2. Gets on the gas. Turn 3. Oh, just loses it. Yep. Identical to Colapinto, to be honest with you. Absolutely identical to Colapinto there. In terms of the collision with the barriers. And Lance Stroll sent spinning. Saw an Aston Martin. Lance Stroll sent spinning. A big amount of damage done to the rear wing of that car as well. So Aston Martin now also need to put a car back together again before the Grand Prix. So we've had red flags from Colapinto, Carlos Sainz, and Lance Stroll. Max Verstappen, 12th fastest. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Valtteri Bottas drops out in 11th. Max Verstappen, 12th. Sergio Perez, 13th. Carlos Sainz, after causing the first red flag, drops into 14th place. Pierre Gasly will start 15th. Well, won't start 15th because he'll gain a position. Max Verstappen has a 5-place grid penalty. So Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Gasly, Hamilton, and Behrman will all gain a position thanks to Max Verstappen's 5-place grid penalty. But it's another red flag, and it's come at literally the worst time for Max Verstappen. And you can see the frustration there. Verstappen punches the wheel. He was coming around sort of turn 10, turn 11 on a lap where he was improving his lap time. And the red flag goes against Verstappen. Jos Verstappen also with a smack of the TV screen in front of him. GP head in hands. This is going to be an absolutely chaotic race. Look at this starting, just the back 10. Look at the start of this back 10. There's 2 Red Bulls and a Mercedes involved in the bottom 10 drivers. If it starts like this, Norris on pole, Alonso second, Piastri third, Lawson, Albon, Leclerc, Ocon, Russell, Stroll, Tsunoda. I mean, still another Q3 session to go. So those top 10 will shuffle around, but the pace is so mixed in this qualifying session. Literally anything could happen. And this is astounding. The Red Bull team, I mean, they called foul with the virtual safety car being delayed in the sprint race. Now, what are they going to be saying? With a red flag dropped just as Max Verstappen was coming towards turn 11. A few drivers had finished their laps in that time as well. It's not like, you know, Verstappen was in the bottom 5. We saw a few drivers come across the start-finish line to finish their laps. Oh, it's gonna be contentious. The Red Bull team are gonna be up to the stewards as soon as they possibly can. But Max Verstappen, ouch, indeed, drops out of this one. Stop rigging the season. I mean, against Sauber. That's fair enough, random guy. Yeah, that's fair enough. Alonso on pole in Q3. Could happen. Could most certainly happen. Looking incredibly quick at this moment in time. So was Lance Stroll. Obviously, Lance Stroll will start in 10th place. Unless he has to start from the pit lane due to the damages to his Aston Martin car. But all the way down in 10th place will be Lance Stroll after a very convincing qualifying session from the Canadian. It's a controversial one, isn't it? Controversial from the stewards to get that red flag out when they did. Few drivers finishing their laps before the red flag dropped. I mean, that it was similar, you could say, to what happened with Carlos Sainz. The red flag didn't drop instantly. Took a little while, but I mean, when the red flag dropped, ugh. Rigged. Lance is my goat. Sorry, I keep saying tomorrow. I'm so used to qualifying being the day before the Grand Prix. Of course, later on today. Later on today, it is going to be absolute chaos, it feels like, in Brazil. I know Sao Paulo usually delivers pretty entertaining racing, but this is something a little bit silly here. Looking incredibly funny at this moment in time. A lot of people not happy about it, though. Sauber outqualify the Red Bulls. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas in 11th place ahead of both of the Red Bull cars. No one likes the domination of Max, to be fair. I mean, yes, but it was a little bit sort of weirdly timed, wasn't it? In terms of what's happening. Bottas out-qualifying Red Bull in a tractor is crazy. Sergio Perez. Not very happy at all. Sergio Perez, to be fair, did call out the team a little bit earlier on for not coming out when they maybe should have. Max Verstappen out of the Red Bull car, walks down the pit lane. Frustration for the Dutchman. He'll start in 17th for the Grand Prix later today. We are heading into Q3. The Aston Martin of Lance Stroll is being removed from the track. The Tech Pro barriers, or no, sorry, not Tech Pro here, are they? They're tyre barriers. Tyre barriers here have been put back together again. If you could hit the like button on the stream, that'd be absolutely amazing. It massively helps out. Hit that subscribe button as well, trying to get towards 110,000 subscribers. And also, you can watch the stream both in vertical and horizontal formats. If you've joined us on the shorts, head over to the actual channel. Join us for the main live stream. Over 1,000 viewers now watching qualifying with us. And a little bit more detailed timing sheets that you can see if you are on the short stream. Thank you to all of you that have joined on the main format and the shorts format as well, though. It's been an incredibly entertaining qualifying session. A lot of stoppages. 3 red flags so far. Colapinto with 1 in Q1. Carlos Sainz with 5 minutes and 51 seconds to go in Q2 caused a red flag. And a final red flag from Lance Stroll with 40-odd seconds on the clock in Q2. The start of Q3 has indeed been delayed, though. We are a few minutes away from it starting, but they're just making sure that the tyres are put back together again. It was a pretty hefty shunt from Lance Stroll into the barriers. It was similar to Colapinto's in terms of the look of it, but he kind of connected at a slightly different angle. Colapinto side on, whereas Lance Stroll sort of went rear tyre into the barriers first and sort of dislodged a few more of the tyres. Red Bull fans are such babies. Conspiracy this, conspiracy that. I mean, this one, even I, from a perspective of a McLaren fan, I'm still not not 100% sold on that. It was a little bit later on. The points gap between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen at the moment, 44 points. Lando Norris, though, 26 points available to him. 26 points off 44 going into the final 3 races of the season makes it a lot more entertaining and a lot closer a battle. Still, though, needs to, first of all, qualify well in this final qualifying session. Lando Norris bit a little bit off the pace from that final lap that he did. Obviously put himself top of the timing sheets in Q2, but before that was struggling. Only just managed to get through to Q2. Was 15th fastest in Q1. But Lando running his luck a little bit through the sessions. And now Max Verstappen out. Does feel like this weekend is just falling in McLaren's favour a touch. And now we have one more qualifying session. 12 minutes on the clock. We're about a minute away from the start of Q3. It was delayed a touch, but the barriers are back together again. Lance Stroll's car removed from the circuit. So has Carlos Sainz's and Franco Colapinto. So 3 teams that also may end up with grid penalties or starting from the pit lane, depending on how much damage has been done to those cars. At the moment, Carlos Sainz would start 14th. Colapinto 18th. Oh no, sorry, Carlos Sainz would gain a position because of Verstappen. Sainz would start 13th, but Oscar Piastri, I think if it just keeps raining like this, we should stay out. So, going for it. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. Just Mandy. Go Norris. Indeed, Norris looking absolutely set up for a wonderful weekend. Just got to get through this one. But thank you, Mandy. That is so amazing. Thank you for the super chat. Here we go. Lando Norris being told on the radio the best conditions should be within these first 5 minutes. So, first 5 minutes. Max Verstappen being discussed. Yeah. Max Verstappen straight away. Why did it take 30, 40 seconds for the red flag to drop? And Max Verstappen clearly frustrated. I mean, understandably frustrated, to be honest. I do kind of agree with him, to be honest. Like the fact that if the car hits the wall, surely, you know whether it's going to be a rad flag or not fairly quickly after that. You know, it is, they are, yeah. But I mean, it's fallen in my favor, so I don't want to help out Max Verstappen too much with his argument here. but I do kind of agree. Esteban Ocon was the first driver out on track, by the way. Alex Albon, Piastri, Norris, Lawson, Alonso, Tsunoda, and Leclerc all out on track at the moment. Coming around to set their first flying laps of Q3. The top 10 still yet to be set. Lance Stroll, though, will be 10th fastest. His car out of qualifying after that collision, which caused the final red flag in Q2. Lance Stroll did manage to qualify inside of the top 10, but will not take part in Q3. His Aston Martin car there, you can see just on the outside of turn 3, still being held up by a crane. So let's have a little look at these lap times. Esteban Ocon is going to be the first driver to get us underway. Ocon coming around turn 4 towards turn 5 as it is. Alex Albon also following him behind. Piastri and Norris, though, I'm keeping an eye on at this moment in time. The McLaren cars with a huge opportunity now with their main rivals in Ferrari and Red Bull. Both of the Red Bulls out. Ferrari missing a car. You look at the fact that McLaren are the only big team with both of their cars through. We've got one Ferrari, we've got one Mercedes, and the rest is a midfield maestro. Look at the ridiculousness that we've got. Alonso, Lawson, Albon, Ocon, Tsunoda, Stroll, all cars that you wouldn't really expect to be through to Q3 on their day. Piastri is quickest of anybody through the first sector so far. Lando Norris following him behind fairly swiftly. The rain supposedly coming in a few minutes' time. So these first laps are vital. Esteban Ocon comes across the line to set the first flying lap time as a 1:26.2. Alex Albon coming around as well. With Piastri. And oh no, has Albon made a mistake? I think Albon has made a mistake. Piastri comes across the start-finish line to go quickest so far. Albon with a pretty poor 1:38. Here comes Lando Norris. Norris quicker than his teammate. Quicker in the second and third sectors was Lando Norris. And a 1:25.6 from the championship contender. Liam Lawson comes across the line. It's only a 1:28.3 from the RB man. Alex Albon's lap time was deleted in the end there for track limits infringement. I think there was a mistake from Alex Albon throughout the lap. But George Russell, the sole Mercedes car now coming around. Oscar Piastri has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector again. So Piastri looking to improve on his lap time. George Russell actually going a little bit quicker than Lando Norris at the moment through the middle sector. George Russell could jump up to the top of the timing sheets here with Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 16th, remember. George Russell up to second. He's very, very close. 0.05 of a second off Lando Norris's time. A very swift time from George Russell. But the lap times seem to be tumbling as Esteban Ocon now comes across the line with a 1:25 dead to put the Alpine on pole. Esteban Ocon absolutely flying this weekend in Brazil. Here comes Piastri. He goes to the top of the time and shoots with a 1:24.6. Feels like every single lap now is getting quicker and quicker. Albon goes to the top of the timing sheets with a 1:24.6 of himself. Lando Norris bounces back with a 1:24.1. It really is all change at the top of the timing sheets right now. Everybody is going for it. Fernando Alonso is in the wall. It looks like Fernando Alonso's out. And it's a red flag. It's another red flag. And Fernando Alonso has made a mistake down at turn 11. Wow. So at the moment, Lando Norris on provisional pole with Alex Albon behind him in second place. 6 minutes to run, or nearly 7 minutes to run in this Q3 session. And it is red flagged. It looks like Fernando Alonso all out of shape at turn 11 and has buried his Aston Martin car into the barriers. So the Aston Martin team, double trouble for them. Both Aston Martins in the wall. Both Aston Martins causing red flags. Lance Stroll causing a red flag right at the end of Q2. Fernando Alonso, a red flag midway through Q3. And he is out of the car and okay. But the front end of that Aston Martin car buried in the barriers. And this could take a little while to clean up here. This is a little bit bigger of a shunt. And I haven't seen a replay of it yet. Fernando Alonso now out then. So both of the Aston Martins through to Q3 and both of them out before they set a real lap time. Obviously, Lance Stroll not able to even take part in Q3. Fernando Alonso's first lap, more of a warm-up lap, 4.5 seconds off the pace. Fernando Alonso will start in 9th place then later on today, if he is able to get that Aston Martin car working before the start of the Grand Prix. The recovery vehicle just making its way out onto the track, and the stewards moving some of the advertising hoardings. Looked like a big shunt. We still haven't seen a replay of it. Big crash from Fernando. Here we go then. Fernando Alonso through turn 10. Turn 11. Ooh. Car just gives up on him. Like, he just tries to get on the power as he goes through turn 11. Loses the rear end of the car. Big shunt. And just a snap of oversteer. And as soon as it happened, in these kind of conditions as well, the tyres onto the wet stuff. And as soon as you're out there on the paint as well, you're careening into the barriers. Nothing you can do. Oh, it's actually the rear right tyre that collides with the barriers first. The car rotates around and also damages the front wing. Oh my God, thank you so much, Crap Crusader, for the £1 super chat. Thank you so much, mate. Loads of super chats coming in today. Not used to so many super chats coming in. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As you know, every single penny of every single donation goes straight back into making the channel as good as possible. And goes straight into improving the content for you guys. If you do want to support the channel, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. They're the easiest and cheapest things that you can do. Obviously, just watching the content is more than enough in terms of helping out the channel. If you do want to support there, you can super chat, as those couple of guys have done today. And also, you can become a member or a patron down in the description. If you become a member or a patron, you also get access to some bonus episodes that come out weekly. Some mailbags and bits and pieces to come. Also, possibly a little watch along of the Senna movie coming up on the Discord soon. You get access to the members only and Patreon only Discord as well. If you become a member or a patron, you only have to do that once and you get access to the Discord for forevermore. So get involved, get on the Discord. And I'm thinking, you know, when the Senna movie comes out, you do a little watch along of that over on the members only Discord. So that is planned for the future if you want to get involved there. But we are red flagged again in qualifying here in Sao Paulo. The 4th red flag so far. We've had Colapinto, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, and now Fernando Alonso into the barriers. The builder getting his job done. Is your name Bob? That is the thing, the builder, isn't it? But 300 likes is the goal that he has set, everybody. I would very much like to see 300 likes on this qualifying. I think it's been more than deserving of a like, because it has been absolutely chaotic here in Sao Paulo. Goodness gracious me. It is all over the place at the moment in this qualifying session. Red flag, 7 minutes still on the clock. The rain hasn't yet come, so lap times could still improve. You know, this isn't like when Kevin Magnussen got pole position a couple of years ago where the first lap was just the best lap, because the rain then tumbled down onto the track. It's looking like the drivers are getting ready to go out once again. But it's been an absolute madness of a qualifying session. Can anybody give you a quick recap? I mean, there's been a lot that's happened. Q1 was already chaos. 20 drivers out on track. The rain was still falling. The wet tyres were the choice of tyres at that point. A few drivers tried to go onto the intermediates, but we saw a lot of them take a tumble through turn 12 in particular. Turn 12 was very slippery during Q1. And we saw a good few drivers go out there, but Hamilton, Behrman, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, and Joe were the 5 drivers to drop out in Q1 after a red flag midway through caused by Colapinto put everybody into a little bit of a spin and had to get everybody shuffled back into order once again. Then in Q2, it was even more chaos, to be honest with you. Q2, Carlos Sainz caused a red flag around halfway through that meant everybody had to come out once again and try to improve. They came out once more, and then Lance Stroll caused a red flag right at the death of Q2, 40 seconds on the clock. That meant drivers that were on their flying lap, your Verstappens, your Perez's, now dropped out of qualifying, unable to finish their flying laps. Which means we're now into Q3. We've got the first set of lap times from everybody until Fernando Alonso sent himself careening into the barriers, causing the 4th red flag of the afternoon. Colapinto in Q1, Carlos Sainz in Q2. Lance Stroll also caused a red flag in Q2, but had done a time before that where it got into Q3. But Lance Stroll with no time, obviously, in this final session. Fernando Alonso also now out of this final session. So 8 cars left in qualifying. 7 minutes on the clock. The barriers just being put back together again. And honestly, it's as good as anybody's prediction who is going to be on pole position. Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Oscar Piastri, our top 3 at the moment. Esteban Ocon up in 4th place for Alpine. George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson, both of the RB cars, still involved. We're about 3 minutes away from getting back on track, and all of the drivers wanted to be first in the queue. George Russell jumps to the front of the queue at the end of the pit lane. Then we have Lando Norris behind him, Alex Albon and Oscar Piastri already at the end of the pit lane, ready to go. Oh my goodness me, it is getting very tight indeed. And Charles Leclerc waiting in the garage for Ferrari. I think the problem is you want to be out on track first, just in case the rain does come down. And obviously, in case there is other incidents, we could see a 5th red flag of the session. That could definitely happen. Or even just a yellow flag ruins your fast lap because you have to slow down inside of the yellow flag conditions. So you do want to be first out because you back yourself not to make a mistake. Then also, the track is probably going to get a little bit quicker if the rain stops. So it's looking at the moment like the rain isn't going to come. There's no rain falling on the circuit at the moment. And therefore, the track is going to get a little bit quicker every single lap because you're going to have, well, now 8 cars running around and drying off the racing line. So we are 3 minutes away from qualifying getting back underway. And honestly, anybody could take pole position here. We could have a real surprise pole sitter going into the Grand Prix later today. Alex Albon on the front row as it stands. Esteban Ocon just behind him. It is very, very tight at the top. Just Mandy with another super chat. Thank you so much, Mandy. You've been very, very kind today. Hope Vegas has a manhole cover sealed this time. For Carlos Sainz's sake, I really hope so. I really do hope so. George Russell then at the front of the queue. The sole Mercedes car. When's the last time we had a qualifying session with 1 Mercedes and 1 Ferrari in the top 10? No Red Bulls. No Red Bulls in Q3. 1 Ferrari, 1 Mercedes. That is absolutely mental. I know that the McLarens are both in there as well. McLaren have probably been the best team so far in terms of this qualifying session, in that they've been able to get both of their drivers through into Q3, as you would expect. But then it is utter chaos, isn't it? We've got Albon, we've got Ocon, we've got both of the RB cars in the mix. And you're looking at the championship standings and you're thinking, RB looked like they were dead and buried after Haas have been incredibly quick since Austin. Haas have had back-to-back weekends where they've been ridiculously fast. And now we're looking at a double RB points finish if they're able to run around in the positions where they're going to qualify. Like, this is as low as it can be. Tsunoda 7th, Lawson 8th. That's as bad as it can get because Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are both out of qualifying. It's absolutely madness. Alex Albon is guaranteed, effectively, to be in the top 6 as long as he can out-qualify the RBs. Just insane. Here comes Charles Leclerc then. Kept the Ferrari inside the garage for a little bit longer, just to keep those tyres a touch warmer. Can use tyre blankets on the intermediate tyres. So those cars at the end of the pit lane, for instance, your George Russell's been sitting there for nearly 5 minutes now. And he is going to be needing to get a lot of temperature back into those tyres because they're going to be struggling as it stands. Fastest sector time so far, by the way. Esteban Ocon, the quickest man in the first sector. Fernando Alonso was the quickest man in the second sector until he then barreled his car into the advertising hoardings. And Lando Norris, the quickest man in the third sector. But it is a real mix throughout the entire grid. And here we go then. Green flag waved. 6 minutes and 50 seconds to play out in Q3. And this is going to be it for Brazil. Unless we obviously have another stoppage with another red flag. Wouldn't count it out. There's been 4 red flags so far in the qualifying session today. Williams with a car to repair. Ferrari with a car to repair. Aston Martin with 2 cars to put back together again before the Grand Prix later today. Lando Norris coming through turn 4 and turn 5 on provisional pole as it stands. George Russell just coming around turn 8 is going to be the first driver to set a flying lap time. Got Alex Albon 3rd, Piastri 4th, Ocon 5th in terms of the drivers out on track. All 8 drivers are now out on track with Liam Lawson coming towards the end of the pit lane. Russell just coming up to turn 12 now with 5 minutes and 40 seconds to play. Oh my goodness me. It's so incredibly tense. Don't know about you guys. I'm worried. I just want the McLaren to be on pole. Just put Piastri and Norris 1-2. Let them sail away in the Grand Prix and make it easy. But it's never that way in Formula 1. George Russell down towards turn 1 on his flying lap. Oh, and nearly gets all out of shape at turn 1. George Russell, big wheel spin through turn 1. Wow. This is I don't think this is going to be his quick lap, George Russell. I think he's taking it a little bit easy, realizing maybe that those tires aren't quite up to temperature because he's just gone off at turn 5. He is backing off and going again. Just needs to get the temperature back into those intermediate tires. As I said, he was waiting at the end of the pit lane there for 4-5 minutes. Those tires getting colder and colder and colder as they were waiting for the green light. Goodness me. Both the Aston Martins out? Yes, unfortunately so. 4 red flags, 2 caused by the Aston Martins most recently. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso both out of qualifying. Building the temperature in the tyres. Oh, somebody's gone off. Yuki Tsunoda has gone off at turn 4. And it looks like Tsunoda has come to a stop. Yellow flags are being waved in that sector. Does look like he's going to get back going again, though, Yuki Tsunoda. Just a little spin for the Japanese driver. And here we go then. Lando Norris, is he going to go for it this time around? Was using that last lap to build temperature in the tyres. Oh, Charles Leclerc gets sideways through turn 10. And a yellow flag in sector 1. And it's Alex Albon. Alex Albon at turn 1, I think, has gone off. And it's another red flag. It's a big shunt for Alex Albon down at turn 1. A big shunt for Alex Albon. He says he's okay, but that is probably the biggest shunt of the day so far. Huge crash for Alex Albon, and Williams now with both cars to put back together again. The rear end of that Williams car in absolute pieces. And that is going to be a huge rebuild for the Williams team. And another red flag with 3 minutes and 31 seconds to play. Alex Albon was running second. A 5th red flag in this qualifying session here in Brazil. He is okay, though. It looks like Alex Albon is just taking his headrest off and his wheel so that he can jump out of the car. So, is there a replay of this? Alex Albon? It's a huge shunt, whatever he's done. Looks like he's just lost it almost down the straight. Sort of maybe into the braking zone of turn 1. And the rear end of that Williams car has collided with the barriers on the right-hand side. Alex Albon holding his wrist, actually. Trying to get his glove off. That is a little bit concerning. If Alex Albon has done some damage to his hand. We saw Daniel Ricciardo, obviously, miss 5 races because of that last season. Oh! Loses the car under braking. And Alex Albon just asking if the brakes failed because careened into the barriers. Did he get a little bit onto the paint, maybe? I think he maybe touched the white line on the right-hand side of the track a little bit there, but it didn't. Just seemed like the car didn't slow down. I think that's why Alex Albon is questioning the brakes there. Huge shunt, though, and you can see straight away the frustration from Alex Albon. Grabs his helmet visor in frustration. He knew that this was such a good opportunity for him inside of that Williams car. It is absolute chaos. And another red flag. And 3 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock. So enough time for another lap if people fancy it. It's going to get very, very close to the timing sheets, though. Oh my goodness me. It could go either way at this point. It's chaos in Brazil. Oh my goodness. That is a huge jump. Williams with a lot of work to do then. So that's now 5 cars that have been in the wall and 5 cars that need repairing. You don't want to be working for Aston Martin or Williams this weekend. They now have both of their cars that they need to put back together again. Carlos Sainz, the other red flag in this session. Sorry, in the Q2 in this qualifying today. But goodness gracious. I just can't understand that. I'm watching the replay of Alex Albon's crash over and over, and I just can't really understand what went wrong. Oscar Piastri also went for a spin, catching that and staying out on track. It was the Yuki Tsunoda incident. Yeah, we never saw this one either, where Yuki Tsunoda went off under braking again, just shifted. Very similar to the Alex Albon incident. Under braking, just loses the car, and the car then steers itself over to the right-hand side, and as soon as he's on the grass, he's obviously sent spinning. Luckily, there's a big runoff area and also some gravel to catch the RB car, and hence why Yuki Tsunoda is able to continue. But again, a big spin, and similar, Yuki Tsunoda felt like he got onto the brakes and then just lost the rear end almost out of nowhere. Did he go onto the curbs? Did it look like that? I don't know. It's very tricky. It looked like Alex Albon kind of went onto the white line, but it kind of looked like he went onto the white line after he was braking. Maybe he went onto the white line under braking and then just lost it. Honestly, Alex Albon's car looked like it just didn't brake. Just like it didn't stop at any point. As they now Here we go. Williams now with a big task on their hands. It does make you wonder, with the Williams cars, do they do what they did in Australia? If Colapinto's car can't be put back together again, or if Alex Albon's car, sorry, can't be put back together again, because that was a huge shunt for Alex Albon. Really big shunt. If they can't put that car back together again, do they put Alex Albon in to Colapinto's chassis? They did it in Australia to Logan Sargent. Remember, Colapinto is not a full-time Williams driver. He is just a reserve for the rest of the season until Carlos Sainz comes back or comes into the team for 2025. So we might not see Colapinto in the Grand Prix later today if that is the case. Obviously, I am still speculating a touch. But give you a little bit of a rundown then of the cars so far. Zhou Guanyu, Nico Hülkenberg, Franco Colapinto, Ollie Behrman, and Lewis Hamilton dropped out in Q1. Colapinto was the red flag in that first qualifying session. He dropped out in 18th in the end. Lewis Hamilton lost out to Lando Norris and Liam Lawson. Lawson came in 14th fastest and displaced Lewis Hamilton from the top 15. Lando Norris was very lucky indeed to get through Q1. He was 15th fastest overall and could so easily have dropped out in that bottom 5, but it was Lewis Hamilton who did. Then we had Pierre Gasly drop out in 15th place. Carlos Sainz caused the first red flag in Q2. Carlos Sainz ending up 14th fastest after he couldn't improve in the last 5 minutes. Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Valtteri Bottas caught out by the red flag of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll caused a red flag in Q2 with about 45 seconds left to play, meaning that they couldn't finish their laps and were out of qualifying. So both of the Red Bulls and Valtteri Bottas caught out because of that. Because of that, Lance Stroll also then couldn't take part in Q3, even though he set a time that was good enough to put him into Q3. So Lance Stroll 10th fastest, but didn't actually set a lap time in Q3 because he crashed in Q2. Then Fernando Alonso crashed in the other Aston Martin towards the beginning of Q3, or around about halfway through Q3, with 6 minutes and 59 seconds on the clock. So he's now down in 9th place and will not be able to improve. And finally, Alex Albon, the most recent red flag, the 5th red flag that we've had so far. Remember, there's only 20 drivers out on track and 5 of them have been in the barriers today and caused a red flag. A quarter of the grid have caused red flags today. Absolutely mental. But Alex Albon, the most recent driver into the barriers down at turn 1, has caused a red flag in the final qualifying session with 2 minutes and 21 seconds to go, currently sitting P2. So Lando Norris is on provisional pole. We've got Alex Albon in P2, but cannot improve. 7 drivers still left with cars that are working and allowed to be part of this session. Got Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. We've got Ocon, Russell, Leclerc, Tsunoda, and Lawson. The 7 drivers that are actually able to still take part in the final 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this qualifying session. We're 1 minute and 45 seconds away from getting back underway. Ooh. Lando Norris being told, difficult message for me to pass, but if the conditions are slower, just be sensible. I think they're realizing that the McLaren team, what they don't need and what they don't want is for a 6th red flag, right? They want Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to come around and have their car in order so that they can move into the race, even if it does mean that they lose the pole position to an Esteban Ocon, a George Russell, because they will back themselves to have the pace in the race to be able to take that position back. So sensible from McLaren is the call to Lando Norris in this one. It is all absolute chaos. We're about 45 seconds away from getting back underway in Q3 here. Alex Albon causing the red flag. And my goodness me, the radar showing little spatters of rain, but still able to go out for the final 3 minutes and 30 seconds to see if they can improve on their lap times. Is Albon's car cooked for the actual race? Of the crashes so far, his car looks like in the worst nick. You know, it was absolutely demolished. The rear end of that car in particular. And the problem I worry for Williams more so than everybody else is because they've already had problems with replacing chassis this season. They've already had problems with replacing car parts this season and actually having enough to compete. So we'll have to wait and see what Williams say, but it's not looking very good at all. Alpine then send Esteban Ocon out first of everybody. And we have got the green flag. We are back underway with just over 3 minutes of qualifying yet to play out. George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson still in the pits. The other 5 drivers in Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Esteban Ocon, and Charles Leclerc are getting out on track first. Only 4 drivers out on track. So, hate to be James Vowles right now. Big decision is going to have to be made, it does feel like. But this entire qualifying session has been utter chaos. Lando Norris coming around. Provisional pole for the McLaren car at the moment. Ocon, Norris, Piastri and Leclerc out on track. Let's see if anybody else decides to join them. Yeah, the RBs are making that move. So Lawson and Tsunoda both coming out on track. George Russell yet to make a move. 2 minutes on the clock. Gonna wait it out, I think, George Russell, and go at the absolute last available moment as Esteban Ocon is now 2 minutes to go in this session, crossing the start-finish line. Oh, and he's locked up into turn 1. I thought that was going to be another turn 1 nightmare, but Esteban Ocon holds onto it, even with the lockup. Here comes Lando Norris down towards turn 1 as well. Piastri comes across the start-finish line to start his flying lap. George Russell has been released from the pits, so they're obviously going for one go at it at Mercedes. Norris and Piastri, the 2 McLaren cars, just coming around this first sector. Lando Norris is actually a little quicker than he was before, 0.02 of a second faster, an improvement from Lando Norris through the first sector. Piastri, though, is a second off the pace that he had before. Maybe just going for another warm-up lap. Oscar Piastri to get those tyres into a better window for himself. George Russell following Oscar Piastri around. Charles Leclerc, obviously, the 4th driver out on track on a flying lap. Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda are just coming around to start their flying laps in the RB cars. Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, and Alex Albon, the 3 cars not able to take part in Q3 anymore. All 3 of them causing red flags at one point or another. Lando Norris has gone a 10.5 quicker than his own time through the middle sector. So Lando Norris looking like he is going to improve on his 124.1. Comes around the final corner. Here comes Lando Norris. And it's a 124 dead. So is a little bit quicker from Lando Norris. He extends his lead at the top of the timing sheets. Oscar Piastri goes 2 seconds slower than before, but Piastri now coming down. Oh, Piastri's locked up. Piastri's locked up and gone deep. Oh, he saved it out of the barriers. But Piastri, a big lockup down in towards turn 1. Charles Leclerc then is going to go for it. Charles Leclerc using that second lap as a warm-up lap. Piastri just about keeps himself out of the barriers, even with a big lockup into turn 1. So Piastri is not going to improve. Lawson and Tsunoda are trying to come around. Lawson is actually only 4/10 of Lando Norris's time. So Lawson could jump in front of even Alex Albon here with a good final sector. Here comes Liam Lawson. Are we going to see a Red Bull-powered car on the front row of the grid? Yes, we are. Liam Lawson with a 124.4. Absolutely stunning. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Can he improve on his teammate? Yes, Yuki Tsunoda is up into second. The two RB cars, second and third fastest at the checkered flag. Lando Norris has actually improved through the middle sector. Esteban Ocon comes between them in an Alpine. He's going to start third at this point in time. George Russell, though, going quicker than Lando Norris's time. Norris comes across the line. It's a 123.4 from Lando Norris. Can George Russell upset the apple cart? He's coming around the final couple of corners. It's been a very, very solid lap from George Russell so far. And George Russell across the start-finish line, second fastest. He's a 10th off Lando Norris's time. He's going to start on the front row. Charles Leclerc comes across the line, only 6th fastest. Oscar Piastri then, the final man. He didn't improve in the first or second sectors. And it looks like Piastri might have given up on this lap. He has indeed. Piastri comes into the pits. He'll start in 8th place. So it's Lando Norris, the man who is on for the title battle. He's keeping it alive. He is on pole position for the Grand Prix later on today. George Russell qualifies in 2nd place. But here's the headline. A second row of Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon. An RB of Yuki Tsunoda and an Alpine on the 2nd row of the grid. Take a bow. Liam Lawson also in the top 5. Absolutely flying in an RB. Charles Leclerc will start in 6th place. Alex Albon in 7th place at the moment. Unless that car needs a big chunk of changes. So Alex Albon might end up starting a little bit further back and taking some penalties. Oscar Piastri starts in 8th place as it is right now. Alonso and Stroll also both need to put their car back together again. They'll start inside the top 10 in 9th and 10th place just. Valtteri Bottas will start in 11th. Max Verstappen qualifies 12th, but does have a 5-place grid penalty, so will drop down to 17th. That means Sergio Perez will jump up to 12th. Carlos Sainz will jump up to 13th. Gasly will jump up to 14th. Hamilton will jump up to 15th. And Ollie Behrman will jump up to 16th place. Max Verstappen will slot in between Behrman and Colapinto. Colapinto will start in 18th place as long as they can get that Williams car back together again. Nico Hülkenberg 19th and Zhou Guanyu at the back of the pack in 20th. Absolute chaos throughout. It's been ridiculous. It's been so fun to watch. Thank you guys so much for supporting and watching. Thank you all of you who have joined either on Shorts feed or on the main channel feed. Absolute mental in terms of this qualifying session. And we're going to be back again to watch the Grand Prix in just a few hours' time. It doesn't feel like we should be. Obviously, qualifying moved to today after not being able to take place yesterday. And the rain looks like it could still come. Yuki Tsunoda in the top 3 there. First time he's parked his RB in front of one of the boards. We're going to see Yuki Tsunoda in the qualifying pictures. He gets to celebrate with the RB team. They've all made their way down to celebrate with Yuki. And lovely scenes there for the Red Bull driver. Right, I'm going to disappear. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We'll be back in a couple of hours' time. What time? That is a great question. Is it 3:30? So we'll be back at 3 o'clock UK time. So literally 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. Set your watches. We'll be back in 2.5 hours' time to talk the starting grid once all of those penalties and possibly cars being put back together again. We might have some penalties come towards us. And then also beyond that, we'll be talking everything going into the Brazilian Grand Prix, and it could be utter brilliance. So make sure you're liking this video. Make